Thank you, Lord. Lord. Thank you. Lord, and I'm praying for my friend, like, Lord. Thank you for your grace. My sins. Praise the Lord, yes, God. For everything. Thank you. Praise you. Let me the head and not the tail. The golf course, like a band start. I, I want to say one positive thing. We've already done this. Do always say something that struck me about the world's greatest player, Scotty Scheffler. And usually this would be seen as a negative. I actually saw it as really heartwarming on how much this meant to Scotty. You and I have seen Scotty, whether it's at the Masters, whether it's at the British Open, whether it's the US Open, the guy, he hits a bit high and then sinks it for birdie, right? Scotty couldn't do that this weekend. And instead of me going, oh, what a choke artist, what I thought was, I know Scotty can do this. I've rarely seen somebody be able to sink as many birdies as this guy. he couldn't do it. And what I thought after about the fourth, fifth, sixth missed punt is, my God, it is great to see how much this means to him. I know you're going to be right. He's had a couple of tough ones. It was actually kind of neat to me that the world's best Puerto Rico. That was what doing the last and
I will all be doing. It's a champion. Yeah, and it's a women's thing. Here we go. Women, we can all just go together together. Thanks. Thanks to all of you for starting to do this. Stay tuned. CNN News Central starts right now. Breaking overnight, at least 4 people dead, 8 wounded, and many more people still missing after a horrible attack on the first person Michigan church. We're live at the scene this morning with the latest.
Right, the clock is ticking. The government will shut down in less than 48 hours. We are standing by for a White House meeting to see if they can reach a deal. The question is, who really wants one? Now, this is a mouthful. An Egyptian strongman pulled a 700-ton ship with his teeth. Why? I'm here fighting with John Berman and Kate Baldwin. This is CNN News Central.
All right, breaking news this morning, the death toll is rising after a horrible shooting and arson attack on a church in Michigan. The search is expected to resume actually soon at the scene, as multiple people are still missing. The FBI has now taken over the investigation and is calling it an act of targeted violence. What we know right now is at least 4 people are dead, 8 people are wounded from the attack on the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan. One source tells CNN as many as 7 people are still unaccounted for in all of this. This unfolded during a large service Sunday morning. Authorities say gunmen first rammed his church, then began shooting, which grew into, you're going to see some of this video. It is wild. Huge inferno. The police chief told reporters overnight that amidst the chaos, churchgoers rushed to protect the children who were there inside.
They were shielding the children who are also present within. Just hundreds of people just practicing their faith. Just extreme courage, brave, and that's the type of community that we are.
We're also hearing from survivors who were inside when the attack began.
I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know we were going to have to get down. We couldn't see anybody to worship my Savior Jesus Christ, and I didn't expect this to happen, of course, and I brought friends.
I'm completely distraught. This was a quiet neighborhood. We've never seen anything like this.
This gives you chills. Here's what we know about the attacker. He's been identified as a 40-year-old man who is now dead after exchanging gunfire with police. The motive remains under investigation, and we are expecting to learn more this morning. A news conference with law enforcement is scheduled for just a little while from now. CNN's Lee Waldman is live at the scene for us. Lee, I'm so thankful that you were there. What is the very latest from the scene? It's going to be block leading to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's a bar working late into the night last night. We left the scene around 10 p.m. and were passed by about a dozen or so sheriff's office vehicles, carrying trailers that said search and rescue on the back of them. We know it's a large-scale recovery effort that's happening at the chapel that law enforcement told us is deemed a complete and total loss after that suspect that church began shooting and that chapel on fire. Law enforcement saying that it appeared that he used some kind of accelerant in addition to setting this church on fire to aid in the blaze that he said. Let's talk about what we know about him at this point. We know that he is a Marine veteran who served from 2004 to 2008, spent time in Iraq. He, according to his social media, is an avid outdoorsman. Law enforcement arrived at the scene within 30 seconds of that first 911 call coming, and within just 8 minutes, they were able to take down the gunman at the back parking lot of that church here. The scene today looking a lot different than it did last night. We know those recovery efforts were suspended overnight because it was so dark. We're hearing from law enforcement sources that at least 7 people were possibly unaccounted for, that deaths were rising to 4 last night, at least 2 of those people dying from gunshot wounds. But take a listen to what investigators had to say yesterday at a press conference about those ongoing efforts here. Investigators are tirelessly combing through evidence under difficult circumstances and working to identify each victim as quickly and accurately as possible. We're waiting to hear about when that press conference is going to happen today, pushing for more information about who these victims are. We know people were also being treated at local hospitals for smoke inhalation as well. Our thoughts are obviously with them after this horrible attack on this church.
Absolutely. I mean, and just how fast law enforcement responded, and still how many people were killed and wounded in just seconds, really. Lee, thank you very much for your reporting. John.
Right, happening today, a last-ditch effort to avert a looming government shutdown. For the first time since taking office again, President Trump is set to meet with the top 4 congressional leaders. They've got less than 2 days to hammer out a deal. Government funding is set to run out on Tuesday night at midnight. If that happens, hundreds of thousands of federal employees could either be furloughed or work without pay. And the White House Budget Office has said that they're threatening permanent mass layoffs. CNN's Paulette Saenz is with us now with the very latest. A lot riding on this meeting today.
There really is, John. And President Trump and congressional leaders are heading towards this make or break moment as the federal government is moving towards a shutdown in just under 41 hours. Heading into this meeting, Republican and Democratic congressional leaders remain far apart on how to avert this shutdown. Republicans and President Donald Trump want Democrats to accept this short-term stopgap funding bill that would fund the government through November 21st, but Democrats are firm in their position that they need to see some concessions from Republicans, specifically when it comes to health care. Democrats want to see an extension of CARE Act tax credits that are set to expire at the end of the year. Republicans aren't giving that demand. Take a listen to 2 of the leaders over the weekend.
Cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save healthcare, so we can address the issues that really matter to the American people.
The Obamacare subsidies is a policy debate that has to be determined by the end of the year, December 31. The start date is not right now, while we're simply trying to keep the government open.
Now, the House has already passed that stopgap funding bill. They remain back at home in their districts this week, but the Senate is set to return this afternoon. Senate Majority Leader John Thune needs 7 Democrats to get on board with this plan. They are ultimately hoping that Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer will cave in this scenario like he did back in March. But the Democratic base has really shown that they want their Democratic leaders to fight. And so that is what Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are looking to do in this shutdown fight. Now, if the government were to shut down at midnight on October 1st, this could have widespread consequences for federal workers. Thousands are expected to be furloughed, though the exact amount is still unclear. There will be many who are working without pay, such as members of the military, air traffic controllers. And then there is the added layer of concern about federal workers writ large, as the Office of Management and Budget has threatened that a government shutdown could be a way for them to move forward with mass layoffs with these furloughed workers never returning to the job. So a lot of questions about the impact this can have on the federal workforce, the impacts it can have at the economy overall. And so all eyes will be on that afternoon meeting between President Trump and congressional leaders this afternoon to determine whether they can actually reach a breakthrough to avoid a shutdown, or if they will simply harden Democrats and Republicans in their positions.
That's right. Pay attention to the posturing before the meeting and then the immediate reactions after. All that size. Thank you very much. Sarah?
All right, called in from around the world with no explanation. Top military brass referred to the meeting as the General Squid Games, but now things have changed, and President Trump is expected to attend this unusual meeting. Plus, breaking overnight, devastating flash floods in Arizona leave 4 dead. Even more people unaccounted for this morning. The search for survivors is ongoing. And superstar to the Super Bowl, Bad Bunny, set to headline at halftime. We'll talk all about it ahead.
Hey, it's Taylor, and we're celebrating a brand new era.
Are you ready?
And some conspiracy theories about that.
Yeah, truly, we're learning, still this is a developing story. We're learning what happened here, but that is a disturbing revelation. It does seem like this person, again, mixed up in conspiracy theories, some hateful rhetoric among certain groups. That may be a through line between these two otherwise unrelated incidents in North Carolina and Michigan.
You fucking dumbass.
We have seen a lot of
You asshole. You asshole.
In this country in recent weeks. And some of them becoming very politicized and fingers being pointed one way or the other. But we're taking our time and figuring out what happened here. But again, Joe, because certainly the one thing we should underscore here is that these individuals may have been, as reports may have been suffering from mental illnesses, or certainly hateful beliefs, and yet had easy access to firearms. And that is, of course, an ongoing tragedy in this country.
So President Trump and his administration are defending the Justice Department's indictment of former FBI Director James Comey. In a Truth Social post over the weekend, the president called Comey a, quote, dirty cop.
A dirty cop who helped get him elected.
And claimed FBI agents were happy with the charges. He also thanked current FBI directors' work on the case. The National Review features a new piece by contributing editor Andrew McCarthy, who says the indictment against Comey should be dismissed. He writes in part, the vindictive indictment the Trump Justice Department barely managed to get a grand jury to approve on Thursday is so ill-conceived and incompetently drafted. He should be able to get it thrown out on a pretrial motion to dismiss. We'll be following that. Meanwhile, FBI Director Kash Patel is disputing claims about the January 6th insurrection. Over the weekend, the president claimed that FBI agents were part of the crowd that stormed the Capitol that day. At a potential investigation, FBI Director Christopher Wray, FBI Director Kash Patel contradicted those claims that 247 agents were
Actually does. He clarified it. He went on Fox News, said that wasn't the case. They will only send in after the But here, what's happened with Comey, you know, what's happening with a member of the Fed, you've had what's now being threatened with Fannie Willis, what's also Chris Wray, you go down the line. Unmoored president.
You can read the editorial pages of what
Yeah, this is not liberal fever. This is the rule of law. This is the time of our institutions. President Reagan in 1964 made his great political debut in late October for Barry Goldwater. Quoted FDR. He voted 4 times. And he said, we have a rendezvous with destiny. So it was a time for choosing. It's a key, almost sacred text of what used to be the for us. Judges live in powers like freezer machines. Right? They understand the history. They understand what's happening in the country, and we do not want an authoritarian president going down a list of people, metaphorical or literal, of his alleged enemies, using the power of a constitutional order created by James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, defeated by American servicemen from Lexington, from Gettysburg to Omaha Beach. This is under immense threat. As you say, don't listen to us. I mean, you should, but we understand. Don't. Look, read the Wall Street Journal editorial page. Read National Review. Those crazy lefties. The Journal and the National Review. And take a moment here, and somehow, make your voice heard. If you want a government, a society run by law, and not the man or the party of the moment, it's that fundamental.
And John Hellman leads not just James Comey. There has been reporting, New York Times laid it out in list form. Some of the others that President Trump has publicly and privately encouraged his Department of Justice to investigate and potentially charge: John Bolton, Letitia James, Adam Schiff, John Brennan, Fani Willis, and now we should add Christopher Wray. And we should just take the president at his word. He said so on Friday to reporters. There will be others. This is the politicization and, yes, weaponization of the Justice Department for a president for his political gain.
Yeah, and John, they could be more clear about it. I mean, it's not just, you mentioned a couple people there, Adam Schiff and Letitia James. They were in the same Truth Social post that Trump put out now a little over a week ago, telling Dan Bondi that he wanted to see Jim Comey. And not just telling her that he wanted to see him investigate, but declaring his guilt in advance. There's so many layers of the politicization and the weaponization going on.
Assholes.
Like that. But the rest of these people we saw, almost as soon as the Comey indictment came out, we got the reporting that Fani Willis was being investigated now, the woman who investigated Trump in the Georgia vote stealing case. And that was just a few hours later, you saw Dan Bondi go on television over the weekend and basically say, this is the new order of things. Those who utilize the justice system will now be, quote, held accountable. And I will say that, but there, again, this is a thing that could take an hour to kind of tease apart. But even if you take some measure of the notion that there were political motivations, you accept that there were some politics in some of the prosecutions or attempted prosecutions of Donald Trump, what there was never was anything that looked like a president of the United States, whether that be Joe Biden or Barack Obama, saying to their attorney general directly and in public, I would like to see Donald Trump prosecuted and he's guilty as hell. That might seem like a distinction without a difference if you believe that there was a deep state, you believe that the Democratic establishment was out to get Donald Trump. But to John Hincham's point, it is not a distinction without a difference, a distinction with a difference, because the President of the United States can directly order his or her Justice Department to prosecute their political enemies and opponents. They have fully crossed the line into the land of authoritarianism. If not fully crossed the side of, as of what we know. Time voyage. Let's just step back a second. And let's look at this from 30,000 feet. And since all of this has started, let's talk about two things that nobody's talked about. Epstein, the economy. Epstein speaks for itself. I mean, you actually have a race because she would be the deceived files. So maybe what you put out there. But on the economy, AP poll just came out. President Trump's approval rate 39%. His numbers on the economy even lower. Most people that have been writing about Donald Trump's approval ratings, if you look at Gallup, his approval ratings on the economy, on tariffs for all of Americans in the 30s. Even Nate Silver, who's been a bit of an apologist for the president for some reason over the past 6 months, said that Donald Trump had a very bad week in polling this past week. And so you hear something. He does Republicans don't think there's a progressive out there looking at everything that Donald Trump and going, progressives openly say they're for big government. They want the government to be bigger and more powerful. We're just paying them back. And see how much the far left hated America, how much progressives loathed America.